Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I know still a few of us are still getting in, but we want to go ahead and respect your time and get started. We are going to begin part one of our housing program services and resources webinar here today. So just to go over a little bit of housekeeping, we do ask that you go ahead and turn your cameras off if you have them on. That's just to maintain bandwidth and make sure everyone can get access to the webinar while it's going on. We have a lot of people on the call today and we want to make sure everything moves smoothly. We will be having a virtual question and answer panel at the end of this presentation with all of our speakers here today. You have Brad, you have Merlene, our local interagency network coordinator, and they're all here to answer any questions that you might have. In addition to that, while we are waiting for that virtual question and answer panel, we do ask that you go ahead and send your questions to CalTAP questions. That's the person that's going to be moderating the chat and letting everybody in today. So if you have any of those questions, go ahead and send them to CalTAP questions. We're going to hold those until the end of our presentation, and that's when we're going to address them. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Danielle Tran. I am a training coordinator with the California Transition Assistance Program, and I'm just here to give you a very brief overview of what CalTAP is, and then we're going to jump into the rest of our webinar. So what is CalTAP? CalTAP is designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras to the earned state and federal benefits, and we do that through our 5 pathways: our core curriculum, education, entrepreneurship, and employment, and then that 5th pathway is for those service providers. So those are actually going out and doing the work and also serving veterans as well. You can find more information on everything related to CalTAP and everything related to your benefits in the Veterans Resource Book. We are going to be sending a link to that in the chat, or a direct download button in the chat where you can get that. You also should have received the link in order to access this book when you registered on Eventbrite. And additionally, you can go to our website, calvet.ca.gov, and CalTAP is on that main page. And once you go there, you're able to look at all of those 5 pathways, go through them at your own pace. But what I also would like to point out is our archives page. That's where you can get access to webinars that have been previously recorded. This webinar is also being recorded and will be posted on this website. So once you are there, you'll be able to get access to the recording as well as a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. So in about 24 to 72 hours, you'll be able to get access to this recorded webinar as well as a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. So that's where you'll be able to get that. So how can you use CalTAP online? We're just going to go to the core curriculum pathway. That's really what I'm going to focus on in this brief overview. And once you're there, like I said, you can see all the modules there that are relating to all of the information in our core curriculum. And again, you can go at this at your own pace. I'm going to go to that California benefits section. And once you're there, you'll be able to pull up documents very similar to this. You will have very detailed information of everything I'm covering today. And you'll have links on where you can apply and get more information or get access to these benefits. So we strongly encourage you guys to go ahead and utilize the website, utilize the CalTAP modules, and that's where you're going to find the bulk of the more detailed information of what I'm just going to briefly cover here today. So what are your California benefits? Again, chapter 1 in your Veteran Resource Book goes into some detail on what those benefits are. And you can also get access to the PDF documents on the CalTAP website. To start, we're going to talk about the college tuition and fee waiver for veterans dependents. And what this does is waives tuition and fees at any state-funded school here in California through the UC, the CSU, and the community colleges. And it can potentially cover your child's education, your dependent's education, all the way through their doctorate. And so the goal is to save veterans, $35 million a year in tuition and fees, and also to allow them to use the GI Bill for themselves and to use the fee waiver for their dependents. DMV programs include having veteran put on their driver's license. And so what this means is you're just able to carry around your driver's license instead of having your DD-214 in order to get access to discounts and benefits that other agencies and companies and businesses might be offering to you. You can also get honoring veterans put on your license plate. Now this is open to pretty much anybody who would like to pay service or honoring anybody who's served in the military. So anybody can get this, and there's lots of different emblems and logos that you can find on our website in order to get this on your license plate. There is also a motor vehicle registration fee waiver. This is open to veterans who have a 100% disability rating and who also have a disability that is mobility related. And again, this would be through DMV. Outdoor activities include a reduced annual fee for your fishing and hunting license, as well as a no cost use pass for the state parks. Tax programs include the disabled veteran property tax exemption. You would apply for this through your local county assessor's office. It's going to be a different name and a different person on each website, on each county. So you'll want to go to your local county to get that information. And very similar to the business license tax and fee exemption, it's going to be through your local county who's going to be issuing those licenses and those fees. That's where you're going to go to get the exemption. And then finally, you have disabled veteran business enterprise. And what this does is it allows veteran-owned businesses in order the ability to compete competitively for state contracts. So if they're doing business with the state of California, any of the agencies, the enterprise program allows them to do that. Calvet Home Loans, which you guys are all here to learn about today, they provide financing, competitive market interest rates, and lower no down payments. I won't go into more detail than that because Brad's going to give you everything you need to know and more. We also have a Calvet Women's Veterans Division, and they provide information, advocacy, outreach, and support to California's women veterans. This is what their website looks like. Again, they're still teleworking like many of us are. So if you would like to get in contact with them, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and reach out to them via email. You can find more information about them on the Calvet website at calvet.ca.gov. They have a women's veterans roster where you can sign up to get access to information and webinars that they are hosting. So it's, again, another great resource for you guys to make sure that you're staying connected and getting access to all your benefits. The Calvet Minority Veterans is very similar to the women's veteran programs. They provide information, advocacy, outreach, and support. They also help unnaturalized veterans in California get citizenship and naturalization services. This is what their website looks like. Again, if you would like to reach out to them for more information, please go ahead and email them directly. Calvet also runs 8 long-term homes, and so these provide a variety of medical, dental services, and it's, again, ranging from assisted living to independent living. It varies at each of these locations throughout California, so it's another great place once you are getting a little bit older, if you'd like to receive some care at a very affordable rate and be around veterans as well. This is a great option for you. The state cemeteries, there are 3 within California. This is in addition to the national cemeteries that are run through the federal VA. We do have a lot of veterans living here in California, so some of those cemeteries do get full really fast. I do believe some of the ones in San Francisco are completely full. You cannot be interned there. So California has provided an additional 3 state cemeteries where you can have the same services that you receive at the National Cemetery in order to have your service honored at your end of life. So I'm going to go over a few common veteran websites. Again, many of you should hopefully be familiar with these. We like to point them out because information is always changing and growing within the federal VA side, and it's always important to go to the source for your best information. So to start with, we're going to go over va.gov. That's where you can get access to your to access and managing your VA benefits. So healthcare, disability, get access to your records, apply for your education benefits, check on your education benefits if you're calling that GI Bill hotline. So again, this is a great website. They did just make a really big change to Chapter 31 benefits. And again, all that updated information is going to be on va.gov. E-benefits is another great place to apply for and manage your benefits and your health. A very, very important website, again, to make sure you're staying connected. And then finally, My Health eVet. If you have VA healthcare, this has been the main website that they've been using over the past year in order to manage all of the healthcare related to VA, do your appointments, you do telehealth appointments on this website, as well as fulfilling your prescriptions, and anything related to your health is going to be through this website. So that's it. Like I said, it was a very, very brief overview. We really want you guys to get comfortable with accessing our website. That way you have the detailed information, the direct links on where to apply when you're utilizing our CalTAP main page. So again, but if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Danielle Tran, and we're here for you. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Merlene. She is your local interagency network coordinator for the Inland Empire area.
Thank you so much, Danielle. As Danielle said, I am the local interagency network coordinator. I want to tell you more about what that means. Go ahead and give me the next slide. In California, the state of California did something really awesome. They created regional representatives for 8 parts of the state. My area is that big red area there. Pre-COVID, I would travel throughout the region, and I would talk to veterans face-to-face at all the community colleges and the bases. Also, I networked at community meetings and created a lot of contacts and community networks that way. As you can tell, our needs in California, it's so vast and different. My area, for example, has a large geographical location, and so travel becomes more difficult, and dealing with different networks, it takes a lot to know what's going on there. But Orange County, for example, geographically small, however, a lot going on there. It's much more congested and many different intricacies as well. Next slide. So my job is to provide outreach to the service members, the veterans, and their families. And I look to see what they need. We work directly with established service providers in our networks, and we also assist with local emergencies. For example, you will find a link in any of those 8 areas at any of the LACs. For example, if there was a fire, you would find at the local assistance center, you would find a link there to assist and guide and direct. We also provide leadership and advocacy for veterans to their local communities. And that means that we'll go to different hospitals or whatever the veterans experiencing, and we will connect them with a department that can assist them directly. Next slide. These are some of our contacts that we could connect veterans to. EDD, for example, our Central California link. She used to work at EDD and has a lot of contacts there. But I meet with them at different meetings as well and provide advocacy and talk directly with different staffs at the American Job Centers. We also know people at the County Veteran Service Officers and here at CalVet and the VA medical centers and vet centers. So there are also nonprofits that we connect veterans with that can better assist the veterans who are in needs of different things such as housing or healthcare or whatever the veteran's experiencing at the time. Maybe the veteran needs some furniture. I can connect them with somebody in my area that provides furniture just for veterans, for example. It depends on the needs of the veteran. Next slide. This is my contact information. So if you have any questions or if you want to know more, go ahead and reach out to me directly, or I can go ahead and connect you with some other areas link if you are interested in a link in a different location. So that's all I have today, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brad. Brad is a home loans officer, and he's very, very good. Listen to what he has to say. He's very informative. I always learn something when I listen to Brad.
Awesome. Thank you, Marlene. I would point out that Marlene and the other links in the state are a fantastic resource that I think is sometimes underused. They are able to, and I like the word link you with the resources that you need, the people you need in your local area, which is a pretty great thing to find somebody locally that could help you with your needs. I'm going to talk today about home loans, and actually I could talk a couple hours. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to try to condense it and talk very quickly, but right up front, I want to invite you to feel free to call me direct with your personal situation after the call or this week or whenever, and we can go into more detail about your needs. So with that, let me get started. What I learned is it seems if I start with the history of my branch of CalVet, it seems to make everything fall into place a little easier for people to understand why we're kind of unique. So let me give you a short history lesson to start this. You see, it was about 1921, and what was happening in the world at that time is our veterans were coming home from World War I. And the state of California, the population of California, they were just thrilled to greet these veterans as they were coming home. They were so excited. And what the state wanted to do is on a state level, they wanted to extend an extra thank you, if you will. They wanted to say thanks for your service. So they looked at the demographics of those people that were coming home, and they saw a couple of things. And one thing stood out right away for them. a lot of those people were farm boys. So in 1921, they started the California Farm and Home Loan Program. And if you fast forward to about 1943, that's when my division became one of the divisions, one of the branches, if you will, of the California Department of Veterans Affairs. And if you go up to our main office building across from the Capitol in Sacramento, and you walk up to the second floor, you'll see it still says on the door, Farm and Home Loan. And I like to point that out early in the beginning because it gives two things. One, I get to kind of mention we're turning 100 years old in May, and we're planning to have a pretty big party. We're pretty excited about turning 100 years old. That says something in of itself. But the other thing I'm wanting to point out is it still says Farm and Home Loan. And I want that to indicate to you that we don't just have one loan product. We don't just have one loan that we do for people. As a matter of fact, we have many different loan programs available to us. We've been around just about 100 years. So in that 100-year program, we've come up with many different things for different decades, for different needs, for different problems, for different situations. We have different loan products available to us. And I like to say we have them back on a shelf necessarily. We don't always pull them down and use them. We wait for the specific need. But there's not just one loan product. Next slide, please. And I think this is important too. Next slide, please. To understand that because there's so many different loan programs, there's some misunderstandings. You see, what I think happened is with the internet, people started to do research, right? And so they would research Calvet home loans. They would find a loan product, let's call it the farm loan. They would find the farm loan product, that particular loan, and they would read through it and they would see a snippet. They'd see something in that they really liked the way it was worded. And they would copy and paste that over into an article that they maybe were writing. And then they do more research and they'd find another loan, maybe for a mobile home. And they'd like a piece of that and they would copy and paste it and put it over in this article. And pretty soon they would have a bunch of pieces of information about a bunch of different loan products and they would publish it. And it sort of looked, it was not intentional, I'm sure, there was no malintent, but it sort of looked like this was the loan, the only loan available, this conglomeration of these different informations. So it created some confusion. And like you would, if you just think about it, when you're around for 100 years, you do have changes. Certain programs just aren't valuable anymore, they're out of date, or we've made some changes to make them more relevant in the world we live in. And so one of the most common misunderstandings, if you will, that we have out there right now that I would love to attack right in the beginning, because I think we lose a lot of people don't get home ownership because they never even try. I think there's a certain amount of people who never even call Calvet for help. And here's the reason. It used to be at one time that you had to have entered service, military service, from the state of California and able to even apply for the loan. But that's no longer the case. So today, any veteran or even active duty personnel who entered service anywhere in the world, living anywhere in the world, they can apply for the loan. They have to qualify. They're going to have to qualify, but they all can apply for the loan. You see, I'm afraid we're losing people from the very beginning. And I kind of know that's the case too, because I often, as a matter of fact, yesterday I spoke with somebody who introduced themselves and they said, I'm a Calvet. I entered service from the state of California. Kind of tells me they got that information from somewhere and they thought that they had to have entered service from the state of California in order to apply for the loan. So you could please help me get that information out. Next slide, please. So the number one question that I get, and I get this question literally almost every day. Sometimes I get it multiple times in the same day. And the question is really obvious. It's what's the difference between VA, that federal VA home loan, and the Calvet loan? And even might be addressed to me like, which is better, the VA loan or the Calvet loan? And I've answered this so many times for so many different reasons and different ways, but I found that there's one answer that seems to resonate with most people. And because I'm trying to get the information out to help as many people as possible, I'd like to teach you the way I explain it. So maybe you can do that for me too when you're out and talking to friends. So here's what I do. I say, look, when we're talking about that federal VA home loan, the federal VA home loan in general, the federal VA home loan, you first have to understand federal VA doesn't actually loan the money. Federal VA guarantees the money. Now, what that's sort of like is it's like an insurance policy that federal VA will give to any lender who's willing to make a VA loan to our veteran in any county. I want to be clear. I don't want anyone to misunderstand. I love the federal VA home loan program. I am all for the federal VA home loan program. I think every veteran should consider the VA home loan program when they're refinancing or purchase. It should be part of your toolbox to purchase a home. It's a fantastic program. But here's what's missed so often. Who is Calvet? Calvet is the state of California doing this really strange thing. They're making loans to veterans. As a matter of fact, we started, the mandate was to help veterans get into homes as a thank you. We have many different loan products, many different loans for many different reasons. But what I think people don't understand is my favorite loan product, and the favorite loan I think of everybody at Calvet Home Loans, is when we take that federal VA home loan guarantee benefit and we fund it through the state of California, thereby doing a Calvet/VA loan. We take the federal set of benefits, the state set of benefits, and we put them together into one extremely powerful, extremely flexible home loan program. It's just one of our programs, but it's my favorite. It's powerful. It's fantastic. And most people just don't realize 1 + 1 is 2. You get more stuff. You're getting federal and state benefits flowing into one. It almost becomes common sense sometimes when you think of it that way. I love that program. Next slide, please. So it's pretty common that if I've been talking and to somebody, especially in purpose, can I go to the next slide, please? The question usually is, well, what do I get? What's different? What's in the bucket of benefits for Calvet? A lot of those benefits are amazing. And I'm going to go off script that I typically go for a little bit here because I want to say something. People like Merlin and Danielle, what happens is when you call somebody at Calvet, when you call me and talk to me about a home loan benefit, it's often part of my conversation. Maybe it's 10, 15, 20 seconds. But a lot of times I'll hear something in the conversation that will go, well, wait a minute. You've never applied for a service-related disability, and yet you've just told me about this injury you got in boot camp. You know what I mean? We'll hear something, and we'll often put you on a different trail. Some of my most successful calls, if you will, favorite calls that I've received, ended up not being about the home loan. It ended up being about something else. I had a gentleman, one of my favorite calls. He called me on Thanksgiving. I think it was the day before Thanksgiving, actually. But he said, Brad, I just wanted to call you. I talked to you about a year ago about a home loan. And part of that conversation, you explained to me the fee waiver program for college. And because of that conversation, both of my children are now attending college. And I figure I've saved about $23,000 in tuition. You see, the nexus was a call about the home loan. The end result was a better financial picture for that veteran all the way around. Okay, I got off track. So what do you get when you get a Calvet loan? Well, it's a very different process. It's a very different process. You see, today, if you go apply for a loan at 90% of the lenders out there, they do the basic same thing. They take a 4 to 8 page loan application. After they take the loan application, they type it into a computer, and then they hit enter. The computer runs that loan application through a set of series and rules and checks and balances, and the computer issues what's commonly called a desktop underwriting decision. Now, one of the ways that I, excuse me, one of the ways that I know a veteran has probably gone through that process and not been successful is I get a call and it starts something like this. They'll say, hey, Brad, what's your minimum FICO score? You see, the FICO score on a desktop underwriting decision is one of those rules and checks. Most lenders, I understand today, are looking for about a 620 FICO score. If your FICO score was below that, you may just, get a turn down, a rejection. Calvet does not have a minimum FICO score. Yeah, I'll repeat that. We don't have a minimum FICO score. But I also have to be clear, that doesn't mean you can have horrible credit. It just means our process is much different and it's much more flexible. You see, what happens a lot of times, somebody who has a lower FICO score may have had what I like to call a credit event in their life. Something happened, something went wrong, if you will. One of the most common ones is a divorce. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they went through a divorce. And if you're in the loan business, when that happens, it's very common that the credit score just goes way down during the divorce. But what Calvet does is they personalize the underwriting decision. They personalize the pre-approval decision. They open up the credit report. They look at it and they say, oh, I see that something happened 3 years ago here, and that appears to be, was a problem time for you. Tell me about that. Oh, I went through a divorce. Well, it looks like the last 12 months, you've made all your payments on time. Yeah, I figured it out. We got through that time. You see, 12 months of all your payments being made on time is pretty good credit for us. Even if you had maybe a 570 FICO, we're going to look at, well, how are you handling your fiscal responsibilities now? 24 months, 24 months of credit with payments all being made on time, usually we consider that excellent credit. We think that's pretty good. So that's what we're looking for. How do you handle your responsibilities? How do you make payments? Do you make payments on time? Have you been paying your rent? How much is your rent? Should that be a consideration? If I had somebody like 2 weeks ago call me, they're paying $3,000 a month rent, and they want to get a loan that has a payment of about $3,000 a month. That seems like a pretty good compensating factor where we should consider. They've been making payments on time at $3,000 a month rent. I think this is something we should consider doing as a loan. Every single loan is a one-on-one basis. Every single loan is personalized. We're always trying to benefit the veteran and help you get into a home. Next slide, please. So how much do we loan? Well, we'll loan up to $1,027,968 with zero down payment in the highest cost counties in California. Next slide, please. But if you look at the chart here, you'll see even in the least expensive places in California, anywhere in California for that matter, if you qualify, Calvet has the ability to make a loan up to $685,000 and some change. Some of the cities will fall in between, like San Diego is always one that I point out. It's $941,000-ish that we'll make on a loan. It depends on the cost of ownership in those areas. We find, though, that most of these prices, if the veteran can afford them, can get them into some type of housing in those counties. Some of the areas is hard. I mean, San Francisco, it's very difficult to buy a home, period. But it is possible. Next slide, please. My favorite question, I think it is my favorite question that I get at Calvet is, Brad, I had a short sale or I had a foreclosure. Is there anything Calvet can do to help me? And I love this question because our answer, our process is extremely unique. We look at this very differently. So here's how it works with other lenders. Let's call it the bank on the corner. My veteran would go into the bank on the corner and they would say, I would like to purchase a home. I'd like to use my VA to buy it. I did have a short sale foreclosure a while back. Could you tell me if I have any ability to use my VA loan still? And what happens is the process isn't very hard. They'll look at the DD-214 or statement of service, still active. They'll look at that. They'll order a certificate of eligibility from federal VA. On that certificate of eligibility, there'll be an amount that was lost. And that amount it represents that insurance policy, that guarantee I talk about. There's an amount that was taken in the short sale foreclosure where federal VA stepped in and covered you. And so there's some funky math, but at the end of the day, the bank typically will say something like this. They'll say, based on the partial eligibility entitlement from your certificate of eligibility, if you qualify, it looks like you could get a loan for up to $300,000 with zero down payment. I'm using round numbers. And what typically happens in that situation is the veteran comes back and says, well, I wanted to buy a $400,000 home. Is there anything you can do for me? And the bank has an answer for that. It's not a bad answer. They basically say, well, the differential between the 3 and the 400,000, on that differential, we need a 25% down payment or $25,000. Now, that's not a horrible deal, honestly, working finance in the past, because that's a $400,000 purchase price with $25,000 down. You're getting a VA loan. It's not a bad deal. It's just not the transaction that the veteran was hoping for. Calvet looks at this very differently. We open up the loan application. We look at the quality of the loan application. What kind of job do they have? How have they handled credit? Do they have any reserves? Do we think this is a good loan? Do we think this is going to go bad? Many, many, many times, Calvet will look at it and say, you know what? I think this is a good loan. And they will join hands. I gave it a name just to talk about it. I personally call it secondary entitlement. We'll come in along with federal VA, join hands, join forces, go forward and give you that zero down $400,000 loan that you're looking for, with us bridging the gap, if you will. It's a fantastic opportunity. It's very unique, and it's something that Calvet does. Now, I got to be honest, we can't help everybody. You know, everybody would like us to be the best lender in the whole world with the best everything, best interest rate, best programs, best everything. But that's just not a reality. We can't help everybody. We're trying hard, but we can't help everybody. Sometimes maybe that gap is just too big. Maybe they've got a $300,000 partial eligibility left, and they want a $900,000 home, and we just don't see that we can bridge that big of a gap. Even when that happens, you'll usually find that, again, we'll personalize it. We'll look at the situation, and maybe you'll get an offer, something like, well, if you put 10% down of the differential, if you put 15% down of the differential, we'll try to give you a better deal. We'll try to always reach out and help you get into that home if there's any way we can. Next. Oh, by the way, I should mention, this works uniquely in another way too. You see, if you have a home that you have a VA loan on, maybe you were in the East Coast and you bought a condo and then you got transferred to California, came out here and you kept it, you rented it out. That's going to show up as an active use on that COE, that loan guarantee, that insurance policy we're talking about. It's not a negative active use, it's just in use, right? But we look at this problem the same. We'll go ahead and apply the same common sense to that and say, can we come alongside? Can we join forces? Can we push this forward with zero down? And a lot of times I think with a rental property that you've got a history, especially of having rented it out, we look very favorably upon that. It's just good financial sense. Next slide, please. My favorite thing to talk about in person, because I like to actually get the response and talk to people, thing is that how we care. And this personal story from me, I joined Calvet a little over 5 years ago. I came from the outside sector. I've been around for a while. And the first week of training, I was up in Sacramento, And they said, look, this week we want you just to kind of shadow everybody, stand behind the processor, stand behind the loan originator, stand behind the underwriters, see our process, get a feel for how everything works. And so I did. And right away, I just kept hearing the same things. How can we help this veteran? What can we do to stretch this? This is how much time they have on the job. How can we make this work? It was just a constant theme. And I love that. I really did. I was thrilled to be a part of that and to know I was going to get to start working with that. But my business side from my past said, gee, if we're doing these larger than normal loans, if we don't have a minimum FICO, if we're more flexible sometimes on their employment history, the different things that we do that show our flexibility, it seems like we probably would have a large amount of foreclosures and cancellations, more so than companies that are tighter on their qualification restrictions. So I looked it up. I actually went and I looked it up at the Mortgage Bankers Association delinquency. And I was kind of shocked, and I didn't understand it honestly that first week. I was shocked to find out that Calvet has maintained one of the very lowest foreclosure cancellation rates in the entire nation for many, many years. Now, I've been there for a while, so I totally get it. You see, when you come to Calvet, it's a very different process. Number one, every loan officer from the first day that you come in, they're taught, always tell the veteran the truth. If that means telling them that you think another loan product from another lender is better for them, you tell them. That's unusual. You see, every loan officer at Calvet is not a commission loan officer. They're a benefits officer. It's their job to help you any way they can. That's my job, to help you get into home ownership. We love filling that role. Now, when you do a loan through Calvet, we do the pre-approval, we do the processing, we do the underwriting, we do the funding, we service the loan for the full 30 years. You're going to be with us from A to Z all the way through. They're going to take care of you. If you have a problem, I can say with great surety that if something goes wrong in your life and you have to call up a lender and say, look, I just lost my job, I just had the transmission go out on my car, I just had a problem, I have a cash flow issue, you are going to be very happy that Calvet is the person you're calling for help directly on your loan, as opposed to a for-profit lender. It's a no-brainer. Next slide, please. I got taken away on that. I just pulled this. If you look at the date, this came in April 15th. And I saw the letter and I said, hey, I'm going to pull this from my talk on Tuesday. What I liked about this letter is it's very common. It's a very common letter. It's a very common letter. This is about a veteran who was able to buy a home. But I pulled it because right now, a lot of people are running into the same problem. It's a hard market, real estate market, to buy a home. It's not easy. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people trying to buy homes. People say it's just impossible, but it's not. This is somebody in Orange County that was able to buy a home. They'd had a past foreclosure. They talk about how their loan officer stayed with them, how they worked through it, and how once they found the home, we actually closed escrow in a few weeks. It was a process that made them very happy. But this is a real letter from a real person who just a little while ago didn't think they had the ability to buy a home. And somebody somewhere reached out and they got the message to call Calvet for help. So I thought I'd include that in this little presentation. Next slide, please. I love this letter. This actually is a little older. It's from September. But I threw this letter into presentations because the veteran in this letter says that they were skeptical. And I just think that is just so true and so common. But this letter also says something else in it that you kind of have to read between the lines to get it. You see, this letter, the situation was the veteran had tried other resources. The veteran was unsuccessful. They were ready to give up. They actually had given up. And somebody like you perhaps said to them, hey, have you heard about Calvet? Have you tried Calvet? They have a different approach to this. They're very flexible. They're very different in the way they do this. And so Robert, he called up Calvet, but he was skeptical. He got his loan approval, his pre-approval, and he went out shopping for a home, but he was still skeptical. He bought a home. He paid for the appraisal, paid for the inspection, but even then he was still skeptical. Is this really happening? And I can relate with him. We've all had those situations. He says in his letter that it was the day before the escrow closed when Adam, his loan officer, reached out to him and said, "We funded the loan. You're going to be a homeowner." And I think he said he shed a tear. Because see, the skepticism is real. People aren't always treated well. Sometimes people don't have enough time to take care of your situation. And we try desperately at Calvet to not let a veteran fall through the cracks. As a matter of fact, every loan officer is trained, part of their training is, look, if you can't approve the loan, if you don't think you can give them a loan, if they're not ready, give them what we call, or I call, a path to home ownership. Tell them, these are the things you need to do. This is exactly what I want you to do. Here's an assignment. I often, as a loan officer in the past, I would give an assignment. I'd say, okay, I want you to go 6 months without making any late payments so I can go to an underwriter and show that you've had 12, 13 months of payments made on time. If they give you an assignment, it's very easy when you fulfill the assignment for them to relook at your loan application and get a rubber stamped approval on it because you've done what they told you to do. Next slide, please. Oh, I love that. So this is a sideways one. This is actually something I received from a veteran that I was able to help get into home. This veteran, very uniquely, he was living on Skid Row for, I guess, a little over 10 years. I actually met him at the Bob Hope Patriotic Building in Los Angeles. That's a big building with services for veterans. And he was in there looking for help. He was doing his work, by the way. He was diligent. It wasn't just me he was coming to see. He was going to everybody saying, how can I get help? I started to work with him, and it took about 2 years. But at the end of that process, and from the help of many other people, he was able to get himself in a position to buy a home and go from homeless to homeowner. And he was just saying, Happy New Year, good to talk to you. And he's an artist. And this is a photograph that he uses as art. He has a little art studio in his new home. And this is 2 veterans, and I believe this is in the Skid Row area. And he sent this as just a Happy New Year to me. This is not the only homeless veteran. I can think of at least 4 that we've helped with get into a home. And I think the main message on this isn't a quick process. There's a lot of things that often need to be overcome. It's not just do this, this, and this, and you get a home. They have to work on it. A lot of times there's a lot of things to be worked on. But the point is the loan officers at Calvet are going to stay on point. They're going to keep telling you how to make those 5% course direction changes so that you can get to a position to buy a home if you really want to. This is what you need to do. Next slide, please. Okay, so I know I went a little long, so I'm going to go faster now. I'm only going to talk about one of the other benefit right now, and you're all welcome to call me and we'll talk about your specific situation. But I have to talk about the home loan insurance program. And whenever I talk about it, I've learned I have to tell you first, you can only have the Calvet insurance if your loan funded through Calvet. So if you have a VA loan with another lender, that's great. You just can't have the Calvet insurance. I just have to tell you that up front because a lot of people want it. The reason you'd want it is this. It's really like an old-fashioned policy. The deductible is $250 for the hazard insurance. The deductible is $250 for the fire insurance. $500 deductible on the flood insurance. $500 or 5% deductible on earthquake insurance. And that's even if you're buying a home that was built in 1926 and it's in San Francisco up on a hill, you're going to get those insurances. It's a fantastic insurance policy. But I really didn't even know how great it was until about 2 years ago when we had those terrible fires up in Paradise. You see, what happened is the day before the fire, Many of the people in that community had plenty of insurance, plenty of fire insurance. And then this fire just ravaged through the whole community. And all of a sudden, the next day, the cost of building materials skyrocketed. The cost of labor skyrocketed. Everything was just much, much more expensive than it had been even a day before because of this huge disaster. Many of those people, I'm told, are still waiting for some help in the gap. They just don't have enough, to rebuild. But that didn't happen to the 26 homes that sustained damage that were financed through Calvet. All 26 of those homes have been rebuilt or still in the process of being rebuilt for $250 deductible. Above that, I've heard individual stories from even one of the people who live there, where they say it wasn't only the great insurance that we're getting this replacement cost guarantee and that we only paid the $250. It was also that the next day, people like Merlin were on site helping us with all the other things we needed. The insurance portion, which I'm not part of, but I just think they're fantastic, does a fantastic job of helping you through those times. Next slide, please. All right, this is probably my favorite, or one of my favorite parts of my talk. I actually like all my parts. I like to talk about best practices for purchasing a home, for getting a loan. And I like that when I started this position, I talked to my superiors, and from the very top, I was given the blessing to talk about other lenders' programs, which is kind of unusual if you think about it. You see, sometimes the Calvet loan may not be the best loan for you. And I want you to know your options. I want you to have a full toolbox when you get out there to buy. And I am thrilled to help you or any friend. I have people call me from other states that are trying to do VA financing and have just a quick question. I don't mind. You're welcome to keep my number, give it out. I'd love to tell you about these programs. So I'm going to tell you about one Calvet program that's sort of a secret program, and then I want to talk briefly about this. I think I'm getting a little long, so I have to hurry up. Calvet found a problem when the real estate market heated up. We found a portion of our buyers were having trouble getting into homes, and we looked at the reason. And here's what it was. Most of these people were trying to buy a home in the lower price ranges of the counties that they lived in. They were making offers on the less expensive properties. And not hard to believe, most of them all were asking the sellers to pay all the closing costs. So they wanted to put zero down and have minimal or no closing costs. And what was happening is the sellers were saying, we just, in this price range, we have so many offers, we don't need to pay closing costs. I'm sorry, we can't take your offer. So they weren't getting their offers accepted. So we looked at that problem, and we actually looked at one of those old programs I talked about on the shelf. We pulled it off, we dusted it off, we changed it a little bit, and basically just the general of it is we came up with a program where we take that Calvet VA/VA loan, my favorite loan, we do the 100% financing, and if they haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, and if they're at 80% of the adjusted median income for the county they live in, and a couple other things, but if they basically follow through, then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do that 100% loan, but we'll give them another loan for up to 3% of the loan amount at the same interest rate as the first. We're not trying to make extra money, but we'll do an extra loan for 3% more that they can use to pay the closing cost. In order to not take away the buying power, what we did is we set that second loan up with the option. You have the option of not making any payments on it for up to 10 years. You can make payments day one if you want to. You can do it right away, but you don't have to. Maybe you want to wait a year and then make payments on it. That's okay. That's how it's set up. That gives you the full purchase price opportunity. You could write full price, and it would give you 3% for closing costs. That program is very successful. A lot of people using it. If you apply for a Calvet pre-approval and you qualify this, it will go right down and it'll be funneled into it, and they will tell you about it. Nothing is needed on your part. So now let's talk about some other loan programs. Okay, I have heard some of the realtors associations are now funding grants again. I'm excited about that. Often these are just a grant you have to apply for, show you're a military member or you have the need, and they'll give $2,500 or $2,000 or $4,000. Ask your realtor, is there any grants? Ask your realtor, tell your realtor, I'm a military veteran. Do I get any discounts with the escrow company, the title company, the termite company, the home inspection company? You'll find that all four of those will typically give you some type of a discount, but you have to tell them, you have to ask, and you have to say, look, is there anything for me? I mean, that might be the price of a new refrigerator or something. You want to ask if you get anything. I talked yesterday, and I'm happy to announce, because I've been waiting for the WISH program to be released. The WISH program is not a CalVet program. It's a grant program, basically a federal program. And the way that it works is it's a program to incentivize you to save money. They basically say, look, if you qualify, for every dollar you save up to $5,500, we'll match it $4 to 1, up to a $22,000 grant that you don't have to pay back after 5 years of ownership. Fantastic program. Not my program, but you should check into it. It's a great program called the WISH program. I was talking actually with a vice president at Union Bank about this, because they have a program they combine with it where they'll give a grant, often first-time buyers grant. I think he gave me a scenario of $6,000 grant plus the WISH was available. These are fantastic programs that you should check into. I think they're fantastic and you should know about them. But my favorite program, one that I'm most excited about, it's called a mortgage assistant program. Again, this is not a CalVet program. I just think you should know about it. Mortgage assistance program is the generic name, but I find if you say these words, what I recommend you do is call the city or the county that you're thinking about purchasing, ask for the housing department. Then ask them, do you have any down payment assistance type programs? Usually that will jar their memory and they'll understand what you're asking for. I have talked with a couple of different counties, including Los Angeles, that have money, and right now it hasn't been their focus to fund these. They've been working on rent relief for COVID. And this money is sitting there available to you. And the way these programs work in general, well, I'll use an exact. My favorite program, I think still to this date, is in Santa Ana, California. They offer up to $80,000 down payment assistance. It's at 0% interest. No payments are required for 45 years. It's a fantastic program. 0% interest, $80,000, 45 years from now, pay it back. Who wouldn't want that loan? It's fantastic. You can put it towards your purchase price. Fantastic program. But what they did is they went a couple steps further. They said, look, if you happen to have gone to high school in Santa Ana, graduated, come back with a 4-year degree, use the program, we'll forgive $10,000 every 5 years you're in the program, up to 40 grand. Then they went a step further. About a year and a half ago, I was talking to them and they said, we've decided, Brad, to open this up to veterans coming from anywhere. You don't have to meet the requirements of living in Santa Ana or working in Santa to apply for the loan. Fantastic program. These programs and similar are popping up all over. I'm seeing them come up all over. You're welcome to call me and I'll try to dig in with you to see if we can find one in your area. But if you just call the county and the city and ask the housing department, you'll probably find what you're needing to find. There's also programs through CalHAFA that I often will refer people to, and the Golden State Finance Authority, where sometimes maybe there's a reason why you can't use your VA loan. Maybe you're wanting to buy with somebody, you're not married, and you want to buy the property, and now you can't use that program. Some of these other programs will fit that niche. We'll talk about it. We'll see if we can find a way for you to get in a home, whether or not it's with your VA. I'd be glad to help you with that. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you how to apply for the CalVet loan, because it's so simple. You just go to our webpage, and I highly recommend everybody on this call go to the calvet.ca.gov webpage and play around. Look at things. If nothing else, download the Veterans Resource Book. It's fantastic information. You should have it right on your phone. But if you go to the home loans page, at the bottom of the page, there's a button that says apply now. If you click on that button right now, you'll get this very simple, next slide, please. This is it. It's a 2-minute application. You're going to fill this out. You're going to send it in. It's mainly your contact information, and you're going to get a call and an email. It'll say, thanks for applying for your Calvet loan. Someone's going to reach out to you within 48 hours. That's 48 business hours. So if you do this at Friday at 4:45, no, you probably won't get a call till Monday or Tuesday. Get your DD-214 or statement of service ready. 2 months pay stubs, 2 months bank statements, all the pages. They're going to want all the pages, and 2 years W-2s. That's usually what they need to get started. And a lot of times that's all they need to be able to give you your pre-approval. Next slide, please. This is how we look in the book, and this is the book that I recommend you download. It's just got fantastic information and very easy to understand. Next slide, please. This is my direct contact information. I want to draw your attention to 2 things. One, Brad.Pedersen is spelled with an E-N at the end. A lot of times people will send me with O-N and I never get it. So make sure it's E-N if you are trying to email me. The phone number 916-747-4137 is just this cell phone. And I would love to have your calls. I want to help you. I want to help your friends. You have my permission right now. If you have a friend, someone stressing over a refinance or a purchase, I don't care if they're coming through Calvet. They have a problem, a question. Give them my number. Say, I've got a friend at the state. I know he would love to help you. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope that some of you get on the path to home ownership, and I would love to help you with that. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Brad. We really appreciate you being here with us today. At this point, we are going to go ahead and jump into our question and answers. Our moderator, Derek, is going to go ahead and start sending those out to us.
Okay, Brad. I am just reviewing some of the questions that we had come in today, and we did have several. Some of them may be, more geared towards maybe a personal situation that they may be able to discuss with you a little bit more specifically, but I'm going to go ahead and read through them, and you can either answer them or have them reach out to you as well, if that's okay, Brad.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the first question came from a Russell, which was, what's the difference between VA and Calvet home loan? And I think we answered that pretty effectively. So I don't know if there's one more thing on there that you wanted to touch on, or I think it was pretty clear.
Russell, I would tell you, and I would tell anyone else listening, there's lots of nuances, lots of differences, and I welcome your call so we can be specific in your situation and make sure I cover whatever question you might have. So feel free to call me or send me an email, and we'll talk more detailed than even I did today.
Perfect, thank you. And another one that I believe I forwarded you, Brad, as we're on the call, came from E. Ramos regarding situation about the COE regarding a divorce. So I think I sent that to you in your chat. So I don't know if you wanted to maybe address that as well, or maybe have the veteran reach out to you a little bit more specifically.
Well, that might be personal. So let's talk to him. I'll talk to that person direct afterwards. It's probably the best thing. Your COE, though, I'm happy to look at your COE or even try to pull it for you and then discuss what it says on it to do that math and all that, but probably on an individual basis.
Perfect, thank you. And then we had a couple questions come in regarding using the Calvet home loan to purchase a home in another state. And it's, just directly for your primary residence here in the state of California. So I think we covered that, but just to clarify, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but I'm pretty sure that's the
That is
main
the
criteria.
We get a lot of people who would like to use it in other states, but unfortunately, it's a California program only.
Great, thank you. And Brad, could you maybe touch on refinancing? We had a few questions come in regarding refinancing, maybe from their federal VA into a Calvet. Maybe you could touch on, maybe their options regarding that, or why it may be beneficial or not beneficial for them to do that.
Yeah. So it is an individual situation, because where you live is one of the first considerations. People who are living up in Northern California in the fire area, it may be beneficial for them to refinance into Calvet, mainly for the insurance benefits of it. In general, this is one of those questions where I most often refer you to another lender, because I actually really like the federal VA streamlined refinance. The acronym is IRRL, IRRRL. And Calvet may soon be doing the IRRLs, but we don't do them right now. So I often send people to other lenders. The IRRL is a fantastic program because it basically says this. It says, look, the veteran's already making payments on time. If you can lower their interest rate by at least 0.5%, we'll go ahead and let you do this at a low cost, and we'll let you do it with streamlined qualification. Appraisal is usually not required. It's usually a very fast process, and usually you get at least 0.5% savings. So that's why I send a lot of people to other lenders for IRRLs. But I do usually give maybe a 5-minute talk on shopping for lenders and the things that I would look at, that I would say on an individual basis, call me and we'll talk about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Brad. Another question is something about the VA in regards to new home loans for construction loans. I'm not sure if the VA actually provides that loan, but does Calvet offer a construction loan by any chance?
Yeah, actually they do. We have, like I said, many different loan products, and one of our loan products is a construction loan. It's not a VA loan. It's a different product. It has no VA federal guarantee. The construction loan, I always, kind of tell people right up front, it's not a zero down product. They really are looking for about 25 to 30% down payment or equity in the land that you're building. Maybe you already own the lot and it's free and clear and it's worth something, but you need to have cash into a construction loan. It's a whole different situation. And I'm not actually the specialist on the construction loans. If you are interested, I will hook you up directly with the specialist who does all of our construction loans. But that brings up another thing that I didn't talk about today, just because of time limitations. One of my favorite things to talk to people about is if you're buying a brand new home being built by a lender, Calvet has a very unique opportunity for you. You see, when you go to a builder, they're going to want you to use their lender. That's normal. Why not? I understand. But typically, if the house is not going to be ready for, let's say, 6 months, they're not going to lock your interest rate. They're going to have you floating for 6 months. If you get your pre-approval with Calvet, send us your contract with that new home builder, we will lock your interest rate, no cost, at the Calvet interest rate. And if the Calvet interest rate goes down while you're in the escrow period before you get your loan documents, we'll lower it. It's kind of a free insurance policy, if you will. And the other side of that, the honest truth is, if the builder's lender steps out 6 months down the road and says, we're going to give a better rate than you're getting at Calvet, if you think it's a better program to go with them, you can do that, but you can get that lock with us. And most of the time, once someone's gotten in with us and they've seen all the extra benefits and the insurance and stuff, they usually want to stay anyways. But it's a great avenue to give you some peace of mind if you're buying a brand new home.
Great. Thank you, Brad. We have, since the presentation concluded, we have quite a bit of messages that are coming in. I know we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to try and read a few more. But again, if you have any specific questions, please reach out to any one of us, the training coordinators, or Brad more specifically, and we can get those questions answered for you. So one other question, Brad. It's related to veterans who may be have a service-connected disability, and maybe the amount of compensation they're receiving for that service-connected disability. Does that count towards your income requirements, or is employment a key factor in applying for a home loan through CalVet?
Two questions, really. So the VA service-related disability income is definitely considered. It's fantastic income. It's pretty much guaranteed, right? So as a lender, I love to see that income as part of the income that's being made up. I actually even compensate because I know you're not paying taxes on it. So I might stretch my ratio a little bit. I might give you a little more flexibility because I know you're not paying taxes on that. It counts. It counts maybe a little more. And then as far as other income, it really becomes the mathematics of, do you have enough money to make the payments monthly? There's a point where we're actually accused of predatory lending if we don't make sure that your income is enough to make the payment. So we've got to do the math. The math has to make sense that you're going to be able to afford the property. So I have had people buy homes in less expensive areas with mainly, I don't know if I've ever had just VA disability, but I know I've had VA disability and Social Security, and that was enough to get them into their home. So it's just the math and what you're trying to buy.
Sure. Also, Brad, do student loans count towards that debt to income criteria as well?
Usually. We're in a really weird time right now. So the way we look at student loans right now, because most people's student loans don't show a payment. So we try to figure out, do you have a payment, a letter from them showing a lower payment, or can we apply the VA guideline, the federal VA guidelines towards student loans that don't show a payment, or that have been, basically you can get like you can get it put off for a while. If it's 2 years out, we're not going to even count it, but we're going to look at that, and we're going to try to address the payment on that to help you the best way we can. If it shows a payment on your credit report, that's what we're going to use, just like a car payment or anything else. It's going to count against you.
Great, thanks, Brad. Another question is, I believe in relation to combining your VA and CalVet entitlement, is there a way to combine those two to maybe stretch your eligibility across both programs?
I think if I'm answering yes, that's what I was talking about. So a lot of times a veteran will have used or lost part of their eligibility, and they'll go to other lenders and they'll have limited amount that they can purchase with zero down. And we will come in and stretch that often. It's always one-on-one, depends on every case. But it's definitely a call that you should make, because I've had so many people that have said after this conversation, I wish I would have known. I had to put 22,000 down. You know what I mean? I've had a number of people come to me afterwards that have had to add money because they didn't have enough, and they probably would have been able to have less down payment or none if they would have come through CalVet. So it's a good question to ask us.
Great,
and I would encourage, because I know there's probably a lot of questions, if you email me at my email, or if you call me, I really want to spend the time and make sure that I'm personalizing my answer, because I'm trying to be general right now.
Of course. And as I'm kind of reading the rest of these questions, I think that might be the best, most beneficial for the attendees. I don't want to give them general answers. So I think with that, we can just, leave our contact information up. We're kind of running out of time, but we will take all the time as needed to speak with you all individually today, myself, Danielle, and Brad, all the time that's needed to answer your questions. So with that, Danielle, I'll turn it back over to you if you want to conclude us. And we thank you all for your time and hope to see you all again. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek, and thank you, Brad, so much for being with us today. And like you said, Brad, he really does mean it. That's his individual information. So if you have more questions, please reach out to him. We just want to touch over a few things before we close out. Is Derek did send the link to our SurveyMonkey. That's just for you guys to give us some great feedback on how we can continue to improve our program. So if you have any feedback that you'd like to leave with us, we really appreciate hearing it. And then on the next slide, I just want to go over very briefly, we will have more webinars. I'm not sure why the May ones didn't show up here, but we do have several coming up in May. So please, you can continue to register on Eventbrite for those. But that's where you'll see that. I'm not sure why it didn't show up on my slide here. But we will get this slide updated to go on our website. But again, any of these future webinars you'd like to attend, we strongly encourage you guys to go ahead and do those, even if it's not attached to something individually. Like, for example, the one in a few days is with the Riverside College Community District. You're more than welcome to join that if you guys want to get more information. Oh, there you go. It's in there twice. That was the problem. So here's our May ones. There it is. So here's our May events coming up there. And then finally, again, if you'd like to reach out to CalTAP, just somebody in general, you can reach us here at this phone number or at the email. We really do appreciate you guys joining us today and are always looking for ways to help you guys. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out. If not, have a great day and thank you for joining us. Thank you to Merlene and Brad for being with us today and for Derek for holding down the chat end of it. Thank you.
Thank you all. Danielle, if you just give me one quick second, we've had a few requests for the link to the recorded webinars page. So I'm just going to include that before we conclude. So just give me one brief moment.